Good evening and welcome to yet another session with Medicine Man. And today we are beginning a new thought leadership series with the Pharma CEO Roundtable 2021. So today with us are some leaders from the healthcare industry who are very well respected and widely acknowledged for their expertise in pharma and the healthcare industry. So it's my privilege to moderate this session where Rajaram Narayanan, the Managing Director of Sanofi India, will be delivering the keynote address on the topic of engaging doctors, physical, digital, and hybrid, translating strategy into action. And with him are panel members, Atish Mazumdar, the President of Mankind Pharma, Praful Akali, the founder and MD of Medulla Communication, and Shirish Sahai, the CEO for India and South Asia at Wolters Kluwer. Rajaram Narayanan is the Managing Director of Sanofi in India. Sanofi is one of the world's leading healthcare companies with a global turnover of over 35 billion euros annually. In his current role, Rajaram oversees the group operations of the company in India, Sri Lanka, and Nepal, covering 5,000 employees across 3 factories and multiple commercial locations. After completing his education in engineering and business management, Rajaram started his career with Unilever, where he held a variety of leadership roles in India and Asian markets for over 18 years. Prior to joining Sanofi, he worked for 3 years in the telecom industry as Chief Marketing Officer at Airtel, India's leading mobile services company. And with him on the panel is Atish Majumdar, currently the president at Mankind. Prior to Mankind, Atish worked at Lupin, where he joined as a management trainee and grew through the ranks to become the vice president and cluster head at Lupin. In his journey of 21 years at Lupin, he played a key role in driving Lupin's foray into cardiology and its transition from an anti-tuberculosis company to a leader in cardiology in the Indian market, while also successfully initiating and implementing Lupin's diversification into diabetology, neurology, psychiatry, and oncology. Additionally, he also initiated Lupin's entry into the Sri Lankan and Bangladesh markets and led the field training vertical in India. A student for life, Atish has at regular intervals attended management development programs at internationally reputed academic institutions like the Harvard Business School, the Wharton School, and IIM Ahmedabad. Then we have Shirish Sahai, the CEO for India and South Asia for Wolters Kluwer, a global leader in information services and solutions for professionals in health, tax and accounting, risk and compliance, finance and legal sectors, serving customers in over 180 countries. Shirish has a proven executive management track record with over 25 years of global industry experience across India, the United States, Europe, China, and several parts of Asia. He joined Wolters Kluwer in April 2015, where he is responsible for overseeing all facets of the business and driving the next phase of growth of Wolters Kluwer in India. Prior to joining Wolters Kluwer, Shirish worked with GE Healthcare for over 15 years, both in India and the USA. In GE, he was involved in multiple technologies, including X-ray, MRI, CT, surgery, and interventional in different capacities, including marketing and sales, product development, quality, supply chain, government segment, and as a business leader. Earlier, Shirish was in the automotive sector and worked with General Motors and Eicher. Shirish is a Harvard alumnus, having graduated from the Senior Executive Leadership Program at Harvard Business School. He holds a bachelor's degree in mechanical engineering from Delhi College of Engineering, Delhi University, and a master's degree in business administration from Faculty of Management Studies, Delhi University. And finally, we have Praful Akali, who is the Managing Director of Medulla Communication, which is among the most awarded healthcare creative houses with close to 50 shortlists and over 20 awards, including a Grand Prix at awards like Lions Health, Clio, Global, LIA, and Spikes. As one of the few creatively renowned professionals who has worked as a client last at Pfizer, Praful demonstrates how creativity and effectiveness work together. His prior experience as a client helps him bring alive ideas that work across media platforms such as digital, along with traditional media like television and radio. Praful has served as a jury member on several international awards. He has also been a speaker at Cannes and other forums, and his opinion pieces have been published with several advertising and business publications. So that's a very illustrious group of people that have come together on this platform. And let us go over and listen to what Rajaram Narayanan has to say in his keynote address, which will be followed by panel discussions.
Thanks for the opportunity to join this discussion today with a really wonderful group of panelists, and I'm really looking forward to this discussion. But I think the first thing I always like to reconfirm when we all get together is that we as a industry, as a healthcare industry, and people associated with the ecosystem need to be really very, very proud about the role we have played in the last 18 to 24 months, especially. Suddenly, this ecosystem, this industry has become the center of conversations. Phrases which nobody understood have suddenly become part of people's vocabulary. And I think it's very evident that there has been an enormous amount of entrepreneurship. There's been an enormous amount of initiative, innovation all over the world, the way people have come together. So I think hats off to everybody who is in the pharmaceuticals business, people who are associated with it in different ways. I think we have a lot to be proud of. Of course, the last 18 months have, also created a lot of disruptions, and not all of them necessarily negative. There have been a lot of opportunities within these disruptions, but they have spanned, supply chain. They have spanned research, costs, manufacturing. They have impacted patients. They have impacted doctors. They have impacted institutions, government. And therefore, this last 18, 20 months has actually, given us a lot of time to think about, what is really changing. And what I want to reflect on is one aspect of it, which is the changing nature of engagement with healthcare professionals. And the reason I'm saying it is because this whole change of engagement, it appears to be something which has happened during COVID. But when I look back at what's been happening globally, this nature of engagement actually started changing well before COVID. For a long time, we felt that the pharma go-to-market model or promotion model or engagement model was unchanged. And I think there were a variety of reasons for that in terms of, the role the industry played in education, the availability of information, the portfolio which was actually being marketed at that point of time. But around 10 years ago, many companies across the world actually began to look at this model and explore and see whether it was really adding the same kind of value which it was originally designed for. And we certainly have seen that in many markets across the world, the nature of engagement has changed well before COVID. And whether it was in terms of a hybrid model or a digital model or a mix of parts of the therapies being purely physical, part being purely digital, etc. But companies have been experimenting with this. But like I'm sure we've all seen in the digital journey, sometimes there has to be an event or a reason to get into inflection.
That's right.
Yeah. And I think that's what really happened with the COVID period. What it did was it accelerated for the industry the entire thinking about this model, and the disruptions all got amplified in this process. And suddenly, we were in a situation where we were all actually solving our problem. Yeah, because we could not go to physicians and meet them, and therefore the only option was getting digital in the entire thing. And you began to discover weaknesses and gaps in your preparedness for this. And in that process, you also began to discover certain opportunities. And now that to some extent there seems to be I wouldn't say stability, but at least a little easing of the situation, I think everyone's started looking at what next. What have we learned? There is there are lots of phrases around new normal, new abnormal. But I think if I look at it in a different way, it was the single largest pilot that anyone could have done to prove any theory of ours, right? Because there were lots of theories of does digital work, does hybrid work, this works, that works, what does it work for? But today, if you wanted an answer for it, and the answers will be different for different people, you just have to look at the largest 18-month pilot in the history of this sales and promotion business that you've done. So I think companies would potentially get that opportunity to look at that, and that's the way I sort of look at it. Now, what are some of the challenges and consequences, and some uncomfortable questions? And I'd like to put one or two of them on the table. I think the first one is on, is this promotion model gone? Is it broken? Will the role of the medical representative or the sales promotion, executive disappear? My view on this one is that it's absolutely not going to be the case. I strongly believe actually that if at all, the role will get augmented, it will get modified, and there is a massive opportunity because of what we have learned in the last 18 months to significantly step up the role of the frontline field person. Will it be the same? The answer is no. Yeah, but is there today an opportunity to actually augment it? I think it is, because the central relationship today, or the advantage that we enjoy in this industry, is the physical face-to-face relationship, which our frontline colleague enjoys with the physician. Now, what value does that relationship have, and the nature of it has kept changing over a period of time, depending on circumstances, whether there was more knowledge available to the physician, whether the kinds of therapies which you were doing were limited, and now you have more tools to actually use it. So I look at that first question as saying that we should stop sort of having this hypothetical question because on the role and the importance. Yeah, and I think you will have the role of an orchestrator getting evolved rather than somebody who is going and promoting. I think the person in the front line will be a customer engagement orchestrator rather than someone who is just a promotion person. Now, the next one really comes is on, is this going to be hybrid or is it going to be digital? I think that's the second question when a phrase. Now, hybrid, as we have experienced, there are two ways of looking at it. Hybrid can be a strategy, a choice you make, or hybrid can be an outcome or a consequence of the circumstances you find yourself in. In this period, many of us are hybrid because we found ourselves in those circumstances, right? It was not part of our strategy to be hybrid. I think as we begin to move forward, organizations which adopt hybrid as a potential strategy will be the ones who will do justice to that model. And those companies which may choose not to will do justice to the model they choose. But I don't think it is about whether there is one outcome. And the nature of hybrid can, somebody says 20, 80, 10, 50, 90, we don't know what it will, but it is all left to companies to articulate clearly what is it that they want to go ahead with. Yeah, and I think that's more important rather than trying to, be prescriptive and say we're going to be a hybrid company. I think that's right. Now, in all of this, if you see, we've generally tried to solve and talk about what problems we have, right? We've really, in the last period, not really tried to focus on whose problem we were solving. And the real problem or the challenges are those of the physician and that of the patient. Yeah, so we could not reach the doctor, so we went digital. So we solved our problem of making sure that we could reach. I don't think we solved the doctor's problem. Yeah, but the doctor was also, to a large extent, at a stage with where they had no other opportunity. So they accepted our solution, but it's not necessarily that they like the experience of the solution we gave. Yeah, to them, but they accepted. And today, as the unlocking has happened and things have begun to change, we're beginning to see that there's a lot more premium on the experience which the physician has. So that brings me to, in some sense, the center of what I wanted to speak about today. That whatever we do in going ahead, we have to keep one thing at the center of it, which is whose problem are we solving and what problem do we want to solve for? Okay. And everything else will really evolve around that. Yeah. Because, HCPs have evolved. Initially, some of them were rudely shocked, but now they have become very familiar. They've become familiar with the digital world. They are anyway familiar with the physical world. They have got used to some mixed models, etc. But the point is, how can they really want and desire what you are offering? Yeah, it's not got nothing to do with, how do they just accept what you're giving it to? I think that's the challenge going ahead. The second, new channels have emerged. Earlier, face-to-face was pretty much the only operating channel. But we have seen that there are many, many new channels, whether they are digital, they are through third parties, they are through, online pharmacies, they are through offline pharmacies, and customers themselves are today, or patients themselves are going today and searching for information. So there's a whole lot of new channels, and that's something which has really emerged, and that's an opportunity for us to look at. We've also to recognize that unfortunately, the customer experience for many physicians has been lousy. And we have, in some sense, set the expectations also on that. So there's people have sort of seen it, they have a view on it, and therefore, we are fighting against that as well as we move into the decisions we will take on whether we want to be, hybrid, digital, part, etc. Now, in that, what are some of the things which we as a company have, observed, and where have we tried to, intervene? I think the first piece of it, what we are seeing is that the role of understanding the customer journey is extremely important. Yeah, it is. And today the customer is not just limited to the journey you allocate to that customer in terms of physical interaction. The doctors are there all over, everywhere. Yeah, they are able to get information from different places. Patients are interacting in a very different way. There are new sort of interventions which have come in, whether there is telemedicine, whether there is online consultation, all of that has come in. So you've got to understand now much more carefully, if you want to go into a hybrid model, the journey which your customers are going through, and different segments will have different. So that's, I think, the first, you need to invest in that. The second is, it's an opportunity for you to therefore personalize and customize it. Because when you understand segments better, you can then create, whether it's communication or engagement models, which are more personalized and customized. And that is and that's not something which is natural to our industry, right? We personalize and customize our in-clinic conversation. Yeah, but everything else is a standard one. And the beauty of it is that our winning edge was actually the personalization and customization which our medical representative would do in the clinic. We are unable to convert that degree of precision when we go through an alternative model, right? Whether it's on digital engagement, etc. So you've really got to do that, because otherwise, what you think that we keep saying digital is very personalized, but the reality is your most personalized actually engagement was your rep over there, and they do a terrific job in that. And therefore, how do you give a similar personalized experience coming in the digital piece? That then throws up the need to create more curated experiences, which means that you've got to understand what are the real need gaps which are there. And the experience which the physician is going through is not through one channel anymore. And that's the other thing I think, as an industry, we have to learn from other industries. How do you give one unified customer experience, because they are there with you in the clinic, they are there with you online, they are, you're meeting them in webinars, you're meeting them in physical events. But if you're going to give different messaging across, it's something that we have to learn how to manage that piece. The fourth area is that measurement. I think all of us in our companies always will keep asking, how do you measure? Because the standard defense is that, how do we know it works? How do you measure this entire thing? Except, frankly, we don't know how the other one works. If at all, we'll know it. The face-to-face model, one can always say that in the last 18 months, it told you whether it works or not, right? Depending on which month you took. So the question to ask, but when you get into multi-channels, you need to consciously design your activity to be able to measure. And that's, and I think that's an investment you need to make. Otherwise, you will have a lot of organizational resistance in terms of, believers and non-believers saying we can't measure. So you must learn to develop the measurement systems early. And you don't have to overcook it, but it has to be done systematically. The fifth, and none of these are in any particular order of importance, but I think these are some of the observations. We struggle with data, okay? Because you suddenly will discover when you have multiple channels that your data is not organized. You have to extract it from different sources. They don't talk to each other. You don't have one customer, ID, etc. And then you begin to struggle. And I think as we begin to get into the new model, whatever form it takes, degree of physical and digital, the companies need to start systematically thinking of developing the, data spine for ourselves in terms of, how do we eventually talk to each other? And then, of course, you come down to the analytics and inciting piece of it. But if you don't construct it early, you will just be digitizing very fast with, nice toys, and none of them will talk to each other. The last piece, which I talk a bit more on the harder side, is that we're seeing a new set of challenges coming in. One in area of data privacy, because as you get more and more into customer engagement, which is digital, whether it's with patients or doctors, you have to watch out for data privacy, you have to watch out for data security, and there are also new standards which you need to set in terms of compliance, because things which were easily supervised or checked and controlled in a physical environment are not always easily controlled. And in a pharma world, the regulatory environment is very strict. Our own internal sort of requirements are very strong, and I think that's a place for us to invest. There are four softer things for me. One is in the area of talent. I think the talent which is now required for this will need to be very, very different. I think the things like, marketing, etc., in my view are, dead functions in their conventional route. The classic product manager who would, develop a campaign, etc., in the new world, they need to reinvent themselves. I think the role of marketing itself will change dramatically. It's going to be far more driven towards content and engagement and analytics and data than the very, box-based frameworks which we are all used to. So I think so talent is a new talent you need, and you need to, really upskill your talent. And we've done that in our company quite significantly. The other piece is really a culture of experimentation, because none of these things yeah, and you need to therefore be very quick and have a culture which encourages people to do a lot of A/B testing and encourage people to sort of check things out very fast. Then is, of course, partnerships, which we are seeing a lot more now. The new world in COVID and post, as we get into digital engagement, you can't do everything yourself. Right. And we as an industry have traditionally tried to do everything ourselves. I think there's an opportunity today to do a lot with partners. And that requires also a mindset shift that, you may not be able to control everything. You may not be able to own everything. You should be willing to share, the good and the bad together. So that's a bit of a shift in culture. And the last, I think, for all of us in this model as leaders is that this needs to be positioned and packed as optimistic and something which is going to change, which for the good of the customer and patient, and not create anxiety. The way we are going to go ahead in this model. So that's really for me the headlines right now. I think from our own experience in Sanofi, I think we benefited a lot because we were we had invested a lot in infrastructure. So when this actually happened, we had our videos ready, we had a backbone for Zooms ready, all our people were digitally enabled. So all of that helped. We invested a lot in training. We have something called the Sanofi University, where we have a minimum number of hours which everybody has to do across the board, whoever you are. So we call it raising the floor rather than raising the bar. So first you raise the floor, for everybody to make sure everyone knows the minimum, and then of course you get skilled better and better. So the university is very important. We today used to be less than 5% of our contacts used to be digital, before COVID, and we are now more than 50% of our contacts today can, be digital in many therapies. We have set up a content factory because as you begin to see this, it's a massive engine you need to, churn out content, because it's no longer one channel. You can't only just go to the physician, right? And every channel needs a different type of content. So I think there is a lot of stuff which you need to invest. As a company, we are very bullish about the what we call the orchestrator front end model, where we believe that our colleagues today have, with the skills and right amount of support, will actually orchestrate the customer engagement in future, and that will be our biggest strength. The relationships which people enjoy, augment it and make it even more effective. So in summary, for me, while COVID was an accelerator, it didn't give us much choice. I think now companies have to make that choice. Yeah. And the choice is not just to drift into a little more of what you exited with. I think you really have to think through of building much of the thing around it. Yeah. And you don't have to do all of it as our learning. Pick up a few areas and become very good at it. Because there's also this, fear of missing out when you keep hearing lots of stuff happening around. Everybody wants to do everything. I think now is the time for people to be a little careful. Pick a few things you want to be really good at, but most important, set the foundation for it, and don't lose sight of just two important things. One, whose problem you want to solve. It better be the customer and the patient, and in which case, make sure that the customer experience in all of this that you are doing is the only thing that you measure everything by. Yeah, so that's really for me, my headline thoughts to all of this panel, and we can sort of pick it up as we go in the discussions. So thank you very much for this patient listening.
Wonderful, Rajaram. That was excellent way of putting across, and you have simplified and made our task easier in the discussion going forward. What I really liked was that you so well put it that this 18 months were a pilot. And if anybody needs a proof of concept, they don't need to do a pilot. That should be very encouraging for both Shirish and Praful, that when people say, let's do a pilot, they can always tell them, hey, this last 18 months has been a pilot as far as the customers are concerned, because they all pivoted quite well and adapted to various facets of digital, whether it is telemedicine or using the apps or any one of them, because we all had needs to access healthcare. So that's a fantastic learning for me, that these 18 months were a pilot and a proof of concept. And the other thing I really liked what you said was that we need to lay to rest this myth that the front-ending salesperson is some way going to be displaced. No, that has been the centerpiece of pharma's approach with the medical fraternities, that is a one-to-one, face-to-face connection. The challenge is that when there's restrictions on this, how can digital tools augment that? And that must be music to Atish's ears, because he is with Mankind, a company that has the largest field force, probably not only in India, but anywhere in the world. So how do you upskill them, and how do you, set the bar higher and allow them to experiment? And that means we have to be comfortable with failure. So excellent learnings, but I will let you go, Atish, first, as to what you see were the key takeaways from Rajaram's keynote address, where he put across so nicely that it's about the customer, his engagement and his experience, and not my products and my promotion. So over to you, Atish, then you can come in, Praful, and then finally Shirish.
I think Rajaram put it across very, very nicely. And I kind of sync with everything that he said. I can only tell you one thing, during the pandemic, mankind, we expanded our field force, which is very contrarian in nature and or conventional wisdom, if you might say so. And we also went through a digital transformation. This transformation was all about finding a better version of ourselves, right? And that's what digital does to you. So this is one piece, right? But coming back to the pandemic, it was a COVID pandemic. Yes, it was also a digital pandemic. But during this 18 months, when we walked into the pandemic, it was disruptive in nature, and it kind of became imperative to have space where you are being able to connect digitally with your customers, right? It was kind of imperative. But by the time the second phase ended, you kind of realized the importance of human connections, right? And that is the realization on which we are building our digital strategy. Now, see, whenever we look at digital marketing or a digital strategy, I think we all understand one thing: technology always gives businesses an advantage. There's no doubt about it, right? But digital marketing per se has been very, very disruptive, because digitalization is all about connecting, people, devices, physical objects. And data tells us by 2025 there will be 20 billion devices connected, which means that is going to be like 3 times the world population. This is one thing that one has to keep in mind, that digitalization is very disruptive simply because it acts on the ecosystem itself. Technology helps you to improve your product or service, but a digital world helps your customer to choose better, right? So the choices goes on to him, right? So the value addition takes place more at the customer level than at the firm level. And that, I think Rajaram was mentioning, that one should keep an eye on the metrics simply because of that, because the value initially is all with the customer and not with the company initially, right? So that's the second piece of it. The third piece, companies have been competing on capabilities since the 90s, right? And digital today is a capability. A capability, why? Because it has to be a process, a practice within the organization, a belief within the organization, which helps you differentiate, right? If all these three are put together on the table, then I think it becomes very easy for any organization to walk into this post-pandemic era or the new normal that we talk about. I think what's important here is to really understand that phygital or physical and a mix of digital is what is going to stay, right? But what is also important here is that, how much salience each one will have should be left to your capabilities, right? How much you will be able to deliver value to your customer, right? And I also told initially, that digital kind of puts the choice with your customer, right? And that is the difference when you really, really go out and market or connect with your customers digitally, right? In a personal face-to-face kind of setup, what essentially happens is, your rep already has a talk which is pre-decided, right? A conversation which is kind of pre-decided when he goes and talks to the customer. But in a digital world, the customer decides which conversation he wants to have. And in that way, it is very, very personal, right? Because I decided that I want to have this conversation. And so what becomes imperative for any company today in the branded generic space or in the branded space, anywhere in the globe today, is to really, really define, what are those capabilities which we are going to build around digital. And yes, content is something one has to drive. So just to sum it up, I really feel that people and digital, are propositions which you use to connect with your customers. And the fact is, when I stepped into the industry in 98, the IT industry employed, I don't know, maybe in India, 10,000 people, but today, look at it. So digital always leads to greater employment, right? It gives you a better understanding of your customers. It helps you create greater value. I think that those are my learnings. And we really believe, that digital only helps you to connect better with your customer, to create a better customer experience, and really give him that free choice. He doesn't have to go for that extra thing which he does not require. I think that's what digital does.
Great. That was wonderful, Atish, for me to hear that so far the pharma has been pushing the content, but now it has to use digital in such a way that it pulls the customer in to initiate the conversation. And that way, I think it syncs very well with what Rajaram said, is that we have to personalize it. But you gave it the nice perspective that when the doctor initiates it, it's already begun on a personal note, and therefore you should be prepared, and therefore your capabilities will decide whether you want to go more on physical, phygital, or a hybrid model. So those were wonderful perspectives. Praful, your take on the keynote.
Yeah. So first of all, thanks Rajaram for making our job very, very easy with a beautiful keynote. We just have to add on to it. The context is set beautifully. So just, in that spirit, a couple of things to add on. One is that, even before we talk about digital, I think digital is one element, it's one medium. Yes, you can't give it enough importance, but it's one medium. What's important to remember is that the pandemic has been, and probably will be, hopefully, the biggest change that any of us will ever see in our lifetimes. Right? This change that's happened in a span of a week, that we've still been adjusting to for the last 18 to 24 months, is what's important to register, that this is that kind of an intense change. Given that intense change, I think this also becomes, we need to make fundamental changes in the way that each of us look at our business. This change is something that we need to recognize, and this becomes an opportunity for a lot of us. Because if you go back in history, you realize that companies which have grown the most at change. Companies which have been destroyed, organizations, teams, even heroes being built. Steve Jobs was not always a hero for Apple, right? There were times in his career when he went through different times of flux. But how do we use that change is up to us. So that's one important thing to kind of recalibrate, and digital is then one part of it. Therefore, what Rajaram spoke about in terms of the culture of experimentation and open-mindedness, I'm going to add open-mindedness to that, I think is very, very important for each one of us. Traditionally, pharma teams have got a very easy job. We've got to kind of go with blinders, doctor to doctor, convert them. Sales guys become marketing guys very often. Marketing is not always looked at as a separate function. And all of it is about your deep relationships. So the longer you've been there, the better it is, because the relationship is deeper. You don't always change territories and stuff like that. So there is, we've been rewarding focus, and now suddenly you need to reward open-mindedness. Right? What's also important, is that this is very different from. So open-mindedness is very different from what we've been rewarding in the past. We've been rewarding focus. Now suddenly you want to reward open-mindedness, and that's important. That fundamental change as leaders, what we need to drive in the company is important. Now, what happens in this is that you can't whip your boys into experimentation. You can't whip your boys into open-mindedness, right? You have to inspire them into open-mindedness. You have to get them to see that opportunity. So that's that fundamental shift of leaders in terms of strategic direction, inspiration, and of course, setting up systems and structures for the new world is important. But you can't whip the team into those new structures as we've been doing in the past, and that has worked for us. So I think those, at a leadership level, I think that's important to understand. The other thing, at an individual level, a lot of the people watching this are going to be, sales and marketing folks. They're also the holders of that customer relationship, as Rajaram and Atish have been talking about so far. Right? These are the guys who hold that customer relationship. And what I'm kind of beginning to realize is that earlier we got away with, and Rajaram has put this very beautifully in terms of understanding the changes and the problems from the perspective of the customer. I typically use another way to do it. What's kind of, as marketing people, the pharma industry specifically has been doing a lot of brand first communication, right? What do I need to say as a brand, right? I'm faster, I'm smoother, I taste better, I do this, I do that. And then the medical rep would go to the doctor and stand with 3 other medical reps, and the doctor would say, I'm giving you 10 seconds. It's like brand ABC is tastier with pineapple flavor. And the doctor says, okay, next. And you drop the pineapple flavor in the doctor's chamber and you walk out. And you got away with it, right? It wasn't the right thing to do, but we've all been getting away with it, right? What COVID principally does, right, for marketing teams is it's not going to let us get away with brand first communication anymore, right? Like Atish said, the doctor can choose the communication, right? Now, whether it's a virtual conversation, whether it is even a digital-led conversation, the doctor can choose that conversation. And when doctors realize that they can choose that conversation, they don't, and they're used to doctor-first conversations, they don't want to hear a brand-first conversation even in the clinic, right? The medical rep comes and says pineapple flavor, and the doctor is like, for God's sake, get out of here. We've been seeing social media outbursts from doctors saying, what is the medical rep doing in my chamber, right? That's a wake-up call for each of us. So I think while there's a lot of nitty-gritties to work on, I think the sales team and the marketing team, and then everyone who supports them around that in the organization needs to change the conversation from brand first to doctor first, right? And the moment we do that, we are going to see value out of this. And if we don't, we're really going to be, wearing, summer clothes in the winter for all practical purposes. And that's not going to be a very pretty sight.
Thank you, Praful, for those perspectives. I think you have made it very clear that companies that grew were the companies that changed. And digital is one more opportunity to change what's not been working. And I think Atish brought it out beautifully that the Mankind growth story, which I've always been fascinated with, is about the change, the rapid pivoting that they've been able to do. And to hear from him that in the COVID season that they've actually increased their field force is fabulous. I'm sure that he's not going to share his secret recipes. It is for others to invent their own recipes. But I think you said it well, very well. And that brand first is out, because even in digital communication, we see even if it's a webinar invite, there are 10 brand names put in. I don't know which one the doctor has to read first or which one comes visible very highly. And then you can't whip up your boys. That's so important. Sales guys have always been the whipping boys, but not anymore, as Rajaram made it so clear that they have to be the front enders of your customer relationships. And they have to be equipped in such a way that they can engage the doctors and create an experience for them that is much better than pineapple flavor. So Shirish, traditionally CME has been the cornerstone of engagement with doctors. I believe it was Shishoi Ninomiya who was the first medical rep, and that came about when Roche signed some deal with the Japanese dealers who were distributing drugs, and they sent a whole lot of medicines and nothing moved for 6 months. And they sent Dr. Rudolf Ebeling to scout the market. And what he discovered was that he needed somebody who understood medicine. So he hired this pharmacologist, Shishoy Ninomiya, and trained him, and he became the first medical rep. So the term medical really meant medical, and that's your forte at Wolters Kluwer. So how do you see, in response to what Rajaram has shared, how do you see this particular piece of medical information or CME going forward in the digital world?
So thanks a lot, Rajaram, Atish, Praful, for your comments, and Anup, you too. So for me, something which stood out of all the conversation that we just had was that content is really the king. And not any content, and it can be in any form, physical or digital, but that really is the king there. And like I said, not any content, a content which is actually relevant to the doctor. It's delivered when they actually need it, and something that is useful that they can use it at that particular time. And to highlight that, I would like to kind of give two examples that we have experienced personally. The first example stems from a global research which has concluded that typically when a doctor is treating a patient in a day, they face 11 clinical questions every day. Unfortunately, 60% of these clinical questions go unanswered. And in case these questions get answered, 5 to 8 patient lives could get impacted. So what we have found that if we are able to answer these questions, that we have a solution, a cloud-based solution, which can answer these questions in 90 seconds. And this particular answer is going to be something which is 3-tier peer reviewed. It's clinical evidence based and something which is validated by 6,000 plus experts around the world. And it is delivered anywhere, even without internet. So when you have this kind of a solution, which really addresses the rudimentary challenge of a doctor treating a patient, you find that engagement really, kind of takes off. And we have found that example in our company when we have related this particular solution to the doctors. The second example I would give is, and something which all of you talked about, is one of the other challenges that the medical fraternity healthcare professional faces. It's a fast changing medical sciences. So every day, new articles are getting published in journals, and COVID has even accentuated that. What if you could have anything that is new, that is published around the world in a reputed journal, you can have that, a practice changing update or something like that, available to you when you need it. So something that we run as a What's New series, which has a practice-changing update as a part of it. An example in September, we released a practice-changing update related to peripheral arterial disease management, related to carotid stenting versus alternate management of that. So if you have the doctors having that information, that what has changed, what's new, has something changed in my specialty, they would be ready to engage with that. So these are two things which I wanted to highlight, that content is really the king, and in our engagement, physical or digital, that becomes the center point. And it should be something that Rajaram, you talked about. It should not be like ad hoc. It should be something which addresses the pain point of the healthcare professional. So those were my 2 cents to add to what you just said, all of you.
Thank you, Shirish. Those were very insightful comments from your end. 11 clinical questions, 60% of them unanswered, and it could save at least or improve or impact 5 patients' life. That would be something that's a wonderful experience for a clinician. So I've always held, I worked as an oncology product specialist back in the 80s. My territory was Tata Memorial Hospital. We had no sampling, we had no gifting. We were only distributing the ASCO reports to the doctors in Tata Memorial Hospital. And we had to personalize that content, because ASCO is like the Bible, but one doctor treats only head and neck, the other one treats only breast. So you can't expect. So the tool that those days for us to just highlight those with a highlighter and give it to them. And today digital makes it possible for you to, as Shirish rightly said, what is it that the doctor wants and how can I personalize and give that content to you? So great discussions. So I'll come to you with the second question, Atish, is to you. Can you share some of your insights on what it takes to implement? Because that's where I think we are really stuck at, implementing a digital strategy effectively. And if you can give some pointers on what is the immediate, midterm, and long-term directional paths for pharma leaders to take.
To implement a successful digital strategy, I think what you do is nothing digital. You do what is normally leadership behavior. See, we have during the COVID, obviously we did this. We launched Drona, which was our clinical app with teleconsultation facilities. We have now about 20,000 doctors registered and using this app, right? We launched Prana chatbot for diabetes patients, now for respiratory patients and cardiac patients. And we have seen huge traction over here. We ran a social media campaign, One Life, which was really appreciated, and we have thousands of followers on social media. The reasons for saying this is, these were things which we did new. And while implementing this, we learned a lot of things. And some of them has already been touched by Rajaram. But like I said, digital strategy, like any other strategy, requires an approach at the leadership level. The first is have the heart to fail. Like in anything that you do, you have to experiment, you have to embrace failure, you have to learn from failure. And which means if you have to implement a digital strategy, you really need to bring that agility into your moves and the way you reach out to the last person in the organization. It's not about just saying, just do this, right? It's about really explaining to him, making him understand, why are you doing it? And that requires time, that requires commitment, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is set expectations, not goals. Do goals later on. Set expectations. That what is expected from your internal customers and how do you expect your external customers to respond to them. See, what happens is you when you do a webinar, what is the expectations that a company has or the regional lead has when he's doing this webinar? And, I have been going around asking my team members, what is your expectations? And believe me, it can't be the entire rainbow, all the colors there, in the answers you find all the colors. The important thing to understand here is that when I take a chicken biryani, my expectations are very clear. And value is basically expectations minus delivery, right? If you want to define and if you want people to embrace digital, you have to set the expectations, right? Otherwise, the expectations will be north and delivery will be south and you'll go nowhere. So it's and each to his own, right? Each organization has their own ways of doing things. So set expectations. That is very important. And approach-wise, don't look at it as something that you do in the moment, right? You should not get into it just because everybody is doing it. That's normally a nice way of starting something, but that should never ever be the approach. Because digital, like I said, is about capability building. Capability is a competitive advantage. You just don't walk into it. You just do it in the moment. That's first, The second thing, pharma, healthcare, we use a lot of data, right? And I always say this, and our usage of data, what is the biggest wastage in the pharma industry? Data, right? The biggest raw material the world has today is data, and the biggest wastage in the pharma industry is data. Look at, especially in the Indian markets, the amount of data that can be mined, can beat any clinical trial on a single day. I mean, our physicians meet 70 patients, 80 patients, but no data over there, right? And when we collect data, we really don't use that data. And that is my pain point. I always say, collect the data which you're going to use. So, pharma industry has been collecting addresses of doctors, right? I keep on saying this, and at the cost of repetition, So they collect two addresses. I mean, I've been seeing this from 2000, 2001, One is the clinic address, the other is the email, right? The clinic, they will go and meet. But on the virtual address, there is no connection taking place. So we have to, this obviously is not true today after the disruption that COVID has caused. But data must be used. That is very, very important. And kind of adding on to what Rajaram said, marketing has changed. Marketing was an art when we started out, right? But today, post the pandemic, and perhaps this was happening, for some time, marketing is both science and an art. Without data, you cannot create conversations, right? Medicine that way, from 2000, we have seen the growth of cardiology. It has been an era of evidence-based management, right? You can only have so much conversations with doctors when you start talking about evidence, right? So, which kind of implies that if you are going to have a good digital strategy, then a large part of your content also has to be data, which makes sense to the customers, right? Besides this, I think, again, Rajaram touched upon this, the expertise challenge. I think India will be short of data analysts or data scientists by nearly 190,000, 2025. That is the projections, right? And data security. Most of us have no idea what happens. We just saw the outage that happened with Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp. I can tell you for sure, half the time I was looking at my Wi-Fi, trying to understand what went wrong. So, this is the reality. I mean, 500 years back, you did not lock your door when you went out, right? Or perhaps you did, I don't know, but that's the idea we get, But see, today you have a security guard waiting outside because of the times that have changed. And if today data is your most important asset, then you must know how to keep it secure. That is very, very important. For that, you require expertise and talent, right? And the point here is you don't get talent, right? You build them, right? You just don't buy it off the shelf, right? Talent is as much about competency and skill as it is about understanding your culture, right? Getting into digital space, getting into a marketing, a digital strategy, or executing a digital strategy is not something which you do short term. There are no short terms and mid terms here. It's only long term, right? That's the mindset you get in with. That this is just like, see, when you get into a sales rep gets into a market, right? And for the first year, what is your expectations normally? He'll do 1 lakh sales or 1.5 lakh sales. In the next year, he'll do some growth over there. Third year, he'll do something. So you have put the man there for the long term, So people, when we put in the market to connect with our customers, to have so-called customized conversations, are for the long term till he retires. Then why should digital strategy be a short-term thing? We have to get in there with that mindset, Till digital strategy does not retire, we should be on it. That's my take, right? Infrastructure challenge with pharma, it's big because we kind of finish with the enabling part. You give an app and a tab, both goes hand in hand today. You give it to the rep and you think, presto, we are done, right? The problem here is the Wi-Fi part of it. That's his ecosystem. And if his Wi-Fi doesn't work, and you have not enabled him there, you are just not helping him out. Because the problem with digital is when you're talking to your customer or with anybody, just see a small dog barking disturbs us. If a signal goes wrong, you are in big trouble. You could end up irritating the customer, right? For no fault of yours. But so infrastructure is very, very important at the ground level. Are we equipping our people with the right infrastructure? Right? Because that itself is capability. You go there and and I've seen it so many times. I still do visit doctors. I think the best learnings takes place there. When you go to the chamber, sometimes the guy is moving around with the tab and it's pulling, and if there was something known as height of embarrassment in the pharma industries, when your tab is pulling, you just don't know what to say, right? So infrastructure, very, very important. And, Digital also creates a divide, a big societal divide, in my understanding, between haves and have-nots. So we are today in a very nice place. Each one of us in our rooms talking, AC is working, we are good. Use the same thing outside a doctor's chamber and tell me, in that heat, in that humidity, how will you use this? Right? It creates a divide. We should be aware and sensitive to it. I think that is very, very important as you go about executing a digital strategy, right? Very, very important. And at the leadership level, I think it's also important to understand technology debt. We kind of, and this is unique to pharma, and I think Rajaram will agree with me because he's been seeing this for some time, I'm sure. We kind of buy into technology thinking this is forever. Right. And that's not the way technology works. We make a Salesforce automation tool thinking, oh, this is done. In my lifetime, this is not going to change. But technology does not work that way. That's why I said digital transformation, whatever level you are in the technology game, you have to change yourself. You have to be a better version tomorrow. Right. So you should have the ability, or you should build it in your P&L to pay off technology debts. Right? Just like you write off your old iPhones, and iPhones have given us great trainings over there. Similarly, you should have the ability to write off technology. The other thing is a context challenge, which is very, very important to explain to all stakeholders, that what is the context of your digital strategy? Why are you doing it? And normally, I always say this, it's because your customers have changed, your consumers have changed. Right? How people buy medicines have changed, right? How people prescribe medicines have changed. So it's important to create the right context, right? Not only in your conversations, but also in your content. That is very, very important. And lastly, I think whenever one executes a digital strategy, you must understand the essence of digital is speed, flawless speed, right? That's what it brings in. So it's very important to review, evaluate, and improve, not on a monthly basis, but I do it, every 3 days, 4 days, right? You should have a hands-on idea about what is going on with your digital marketing. Perhaps figures that is thrown at you regularly, but the softer elements of it is something which you should be seeking. That's my take as far as implementing of a digital strategy goes.
Thank you, Atish. You turned my question on its head and put it all on the leadership. So it's all about leadership, and I think your earlier webinar, people can still watch it, and it's I would say a master class on leadership and its importance. Everything rises and falls on leadership. You have rightly emphasized that leaders have a great responsibility to set expectations and not just goals. And data is the biggest waste in pharma. That's so true. I fully agree with you. Rajaram, over to you. How do you look at this executing digital strategy being a leadership responsibility and an imperative?
Atish really sort of explained the whole thing in detail, and I completely endorse. I think there are two beliefs which are very important, which he said. One is that you must believe in building your talent, because you can get a bit lazy about trying to hire everything outside. Yeah. And you have to do both, of course. But I think if you don't have a fundamental belief, because in digital things will keep changing, you can't be hiring every time something changes. And I think that I strongly sort of support what he's sort of saying. For me, exactly, it has to be a belief of the leadership that this will work and this is the right thing to do, whether it takes a little time more, whether you will have support. But if you don't have that conviction, you make or you take actions which go against it every time you have an issue, then you will find that that spirit won't be there. Many times, we go with a conviction to implement something, and then if there is a disruption or if something does not go the way, we revert to our older ways, right? And that is a very wrong signal to send. So as a leader, you have to have this absolute deep belief which you must exude and convince people that this is the direction we are taking, and we will have our surprises in the middle. but we will go and learn together. I think that's first. The other piece I feel is that lead metrics are very critical in execution versus lag metrics in these kind of things, because you often end up looking at what are sales, what are performances, it really doesn't matter when you're making a transformation. What matters is are the executional lead metrics in place? And I think that defining that is very important. Otherwise, you could be misled into believing that you are doing the right thing just because the output is good. Yeah, and it does not build the muscle in the organization to do things regularly properly. So I think getting your lead metrics right is I think very critical. And for me, the third piece, which I think Atish also referred to, is in a digital transformation, or in fact, why should it be digital any kind? The internal customer experience is very critical. So if we have a struggle with our Wi-Fi, you are going to just, reinforce the resistance movement within the organization. Yeah. So you have to make sure that the internal customer experience, and that you have to track, are they experience, and you should not, just implement something and not, listen to what your teams and what your field forces are giving you back as a feedback. And I think that's very, very important, because it can become a big barrier for you in execution. And of course, I think a lot Atish has already spoken about.
Thank you, Raja. That's a key lesson, is that your internal customer experience will ensure that your external customer also has a great experience. Praful, I'll let you go on this because the next question is to you. So I'll go straight to Shirish. So Atish talked about flawless speed, and that being a very important ingredient, and you cannot have a monthly cycle to update the doctor. And I think pharma has usually kept to its 90-day cycle of updating the doctor, when the doctor, as you rightly said earlier, gets daily requests for 11 clinical questions. So how do you as an organization, Wolters Kluwer, help to keep the doctor up to date on a minute-by-minute basis if required? Because that's a capability of digital, because patients are Googling minute by minute, and that's becoming a huge challenge for doctors. I'm connected with more than 3,000 doctors on Twitter, and there's a big debate between two sets of doctors. One set says that don't come to me if you have gone to Dr. Google. The other one is saying that why are we stopping patients from Googling? We should in fact encourage it. So how do you look at this challenge of the pharma companies in providing up-to-date information through a resource like yours?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I think Googling is good, but I would be wary of doing for medical purposes, because there's a lot of material there which is unauthentic and fake. So I would rather trust on something which is more authentic. And that's where the continuous medical education and the field that we operate in really comes important. Before I answer your question, I do want to say that it's been really a learning experience talking to the stalwarts of industry. And I strongly believe, and looks like you guys have your act together in terms of implementing. But I strongly believe, Rajaram, the point you made about pharma industry getting a different stature, in my mind, you already were doing a huge human service. Because if you look at in our country, there's no method of a continuous medical education. There's no structured program. How do the doctors get updated with latest and greatest that is happening around the world? And I think this industry has really been at the forefront of doing that. And from hearing you guys will get your act together, whether physical or digital, but it's so much important that you do, because if we miss this link out with the healthcare professional and the pharma in terms of upgrading knowledge, the country will really be a loser. Now, answer specifically, Anup, your question, that's where the cloud-based solutions, which are on every second, are very important. To have that answer at the tip of the smartphone within 90 seconds, like I mentioned about the solution. So it's not about monthly update, but I'm not saying that that will go away, because there are something which are more something that you would like to read at leisure. But when you are impacting lives of the patient and you're treating a patient, at that time you need the answer within the 90 seconds. And that's where the digital and the solutions which are cloud-based would be very important. So that would be what I would say, Anu.
Thank you. Thank you. So that was very insightful that in 90 seconds, they have a solution that can help the doctor to treat his patients better. And that's what healthcare is all about. Because if I'm not able to improve the experience of the patient, then I'm really missing out the central point of healthcare. So thank you, Shirish, for providing such solution to the Indian healthcare industry. Praful, you have been working with all sorts of companies for a long time, right? And you have done some brilliant promotions, brand building, and you won international awards. It's been my privilege to see you grow from a startup to a global award-winning company. It's been a privilege learning from you a lot. But what are your expectations from pharma leaders when they ask you to do anything digital or anything for their marketing? I think, keeping in perspective what Rajaram shared earlier about mapping the customer's journey. And the customer is both your patient and the doctor. I would even say the retail agencies are also your customers. The hospitals are your customer. There are different. He also talked about segmenting customers differently. So these are different. So what are your, and he also importantly talked about being relevant by filling the gaps in their needs and not just pushing, and Shirish very importantly brought about the point that you need to curate the content because what's available on Google is not reliable. And therefore you need the support of an organization that's curating content in a way that it ensures the authentic information reaches the doctor in quick time. So what are your expectations from pharma leaders?
Yes, so I think honestly, Rajaram, Atish, and you have already answered my question for me. But just kind of building on that, getting into a little bit more, depth on that versus, we tend to work with marketing teams. So when you're kind of putting digital on the ground for a brand or for a category or for a portfolio, really what, you need to realize is that the infrastructure that you have, right? The platforms that the company already uses, you can't really get them to sign, new platforms, use new tools. You can't train, you can't go back and train the entire organization. You can train the people you work with, marketing folks, etc. But you have what you have, right? And within that constraint, what is it that you can do is still tremendous. So we spoke about this whole thing of the doctor first communication or looking at problems from the perspective of our customers who are the doctors or the patients. And, you'll realize that strategically, this is a big change. And this is the ownership of the marketing team. You can't just take the content that you have, which is all brand first, and repurpose that content. Right? Maybe that is a critical starting point, but there is a lot of work that we need to do to understand what the doctor's problems are. And I'll be honest, a lot of pharma marketing companies don't even understand that. We think we do sometimes. But when you actually ask the questions in terms of simple, customer research, what is the biggest problem you want to solve for that doctor in the category, we do not know that. So even there are a lot of strategic tools where you can probe at a category level what problem the doctor is going through. It doesn't require very fancy research, simple lipsticks, simple secondary research, but just putting it into that strategic framework of, what is the doctor's problem while practicing that category versus, what is it that I'm trying to push on the doctor as a brand? Asking yourself that question, working with those particular tools and building a thought process and objectives from that perspective. Right? So your marketing objectives have to come from supporting the doctor in that way. The second piece that becomes important, like Rajaram had already spoken about, is the doctor segmentation and the doctor journey. Now, what typically happens is that When the medical rep goes to the doctor, then the medical rep already has been meeting this doctor for a very, very long time. And when the medical rep has been meeting this doctor for a very long time, he's already segmented the doctor in his mind, right? He knows that this guy already practices, the person already practices the category, doesn't, blah, blah, blah. And the conversation automatically starts from that perspective, number one. Number two, he already knows at what stage of the journey is the doctor at, right? Is he a prescriber of the brand? Is he a prescriber of competition? How frequently does he prescribe? So that happens automatically. But when you're doing digital communication, if you instantly go out and take the same, same communication you had on that iPad, and you try and translate that digitally, we've not understand. Like Adish said, the doctor is pulling in, the communication. The doctor is actually going out there on digital media, but we have to understand the context with which the doctor is doing that. So therefore, it's like, Anup, you and I have known each other for so many years, but I'm meeting you digitally, and I send you a mail that says, "Hi Anup, I'm Praful Akali," and you're like, "Praful ko kya ho gaya? Pagal ho gaya kya?" And imagine that's exactly what a doctor feels on a brand. When a brand goes and does digital communication and starts from the beginning, he's like, why are they wasting my time? And like the dog barking in my background, like Ashish pointed out, it can cause irritation to the doctor. And that is something that we have to watch out for. Like what I did was I went and I shut the door and I put the AC on. We need to, work on that as companies and teams as well. But what we did is when the pandemic happened and we realized that companies are suddenly switching to a pure digital communication, what we went back and is we built a tool which we call a doctor journey tool. So you need to move the doctor through that journey. Even if you're doing both physical and digital, you need to map the journey and see where each of these pieces of communication are fitting within that journey. So mapping that journey out theoretically and then taking the doctor through it practically, both digitally and physically, becomes extremely important.
Thank you, Praful. It's wonderful to hear those perspectives. And because of paucity of time, I'll directly go to Shirish for the last question of this session, and then we will have the closing remarks. And this is Medicine Man's 10th CEO Roundtable. We've been doing it on an annual basis, but we now plan to do it on a monthly basis because we can do it. That's the power of digital. So, Shirish, in digital, content is the king, is what we hear. And that companies need not a campaign mindset where, like just now Praful mentioned, repurposing one content for another content, but they need a change in mindset, as both Atish and Rajaram were saying. It's a question of changing your mindset, changing the mindset from a campaign mindset. So from campaign to campaign, you just go on repurposing the content, to a publisher's mindset where you keep on publishing what is relevant that addresses the need gap. So you've had both global and Indian experience. Can you tell us some of your experiences that has helped pharma companies to engage doctors more effectively in using this content, which is now the king? And how does one select the right, because you have a huge amount of CME material, how does one go about selecting the right content for the right segment? And then again, the important question that we've been addressing is that what metrics can help pharma to fine-tune their engagement and create memorable experiences for doctors and other customers?
Basically, the segmentation of our customers that was talked about is very important. So a majority of the healthcare professionals are involved in treating patients. So I think that is one segment that you need to be prepared to have that answer the clinical questions, which we have already talked about. But then there is a segment which is very important from India's standpoint of research, which again is something that we are lagging behind other countries in terms of doing the research And pharma is definitely leading from the front, but still we are much behind as a country there. So I think that's another area that we need to again segment the doctors and the healthcare professionals who are actually involved in this research and providing them the tools and resources to do that. The third part I would say is, and I think Rajaram talked about, is orchestration of this whole thing has to happen at the rep level, both in terms of the process, systems, and also the content part of it. So I think we are looking at inputs in this new world from the pharma companies also, how we can repurpose it, which is more useful in this new and changing world. So frankly speaking, it's a two-way thing. So you do not publish just for what you are planning to publish. It should definitely be evidence-based, but then it should be useful for the people who are consuming it. So I think that's where I think it's a two-way journey, and that's why these kind of seminars and roundtables are very important for us also to understand what is the need coming from the ground. In terms of the metrics that you talked about, Anup, and I know we, Wolters Kluwer, 90% of our revenue comes from digital and software. So we are hugely involved in usage metrics. So we do track them. But one thing I would like to highlight, and specifically from Indian context, it's not only about how much you are using, the quantity, but also the quality of usage. A usage of a tool which has created a memorable experience for a doctor while treating a patient, when they were actually looking for an answer and they were able to find that, that is something which also stands out. So I would say we can get lost into quantity of usage, but let's not forget about the quality of usage when they actually needed it. So there has to be a nuance to usage, I would say.
Great. Thank you very much. That was insightful. That metrics have to be nuanced, and one needs to again keep in mind that the rep is still relevant and he needs to be equipped through the latest digital tools to deliver what is relevant at that point. And that is why segmentation is so important, and not putting the doctors all together in one bucket. So Rajaram, you began with the keynote, so I will give you the last word as well.
Thank you, Anup. I just want to probably just add one important, aspect which has sort of been now I've been reflecting on as I listen to this. We should not drift too much into only looking at digital as the area to transform. Yeah, I think we're really discussing about a model where our field force and our colleagues are going to be both face-to-face and digital. There is as much a need to create value in our in-clinic interactions, in our CMEs, in all the traditional ways of engagement, because those are the ones which still occupy a significant chunk of the contacts that we have. And the challenge is really, how do you had only that stream of connections before. Now you have a whole set of new channels and digital. How do you create value when all of them come together? And I think that is something we've got to think about, because the customer is going to experience you now across multiple channels. You have to develop, whether it's content or whether it are experiences across different channels. You've got to measure across different channels. But at the end of the day, it needs to come through in a unified manner. And that is something we have to look for other industries outside ours, where, similar experiences are there in terms of, either in terms of the formats in which they operate or the, multiple verticals in they operate. And I think we could do a lot by learning from some other industries as to how can you give an integrated experience, because we're talking about an omni-channel experience.
Right.
It's really not about a digital or a physical, etc. Yeah, and that I think should be the real big leap which we can make. And we are fortunate in some sense that we are fairly late in this as an industry, and therefore we can skip many of the pains which people may have gone through and be able to really leapfrog in that area. That's really for me. But clearly from today's conversation, there is so much being done as well. And it's really great to see the commitment to ensure that everybody in the industry, particularly the front end, feels now even more empowered with the opportunity which the new model can offer. So thank you for this opportunity.
Great. Thank you, Rajaram. That should be music and comfort to our field sales people, that they will remain relevant. The question is of upskilling them regularly and giving them what is relevant. So thank you all once again. The Indian Namaste is one more thing that has become very well accepted globally now because of the COVID. So thank you very much, Rajaram. I really appreciate your taking time. Thank you, Atish, so much. Thank you for taking time. And thank you, Shirish, for making all this happen. And I look forward to working with you more in putting such roundtables in place for the better understanding and the insights that we gain and the inspiration that we gain when leaders talk, because they talk based on their experience and their insights come from that. So thank you, everyone. And I wish you a great day ahead.